what does being mentored by Deidre Knight look like?
Oh, well, that's a really fun thing to have. Deirdre is just incredible. She's at her core an amazing salesperson. I think that was one of the things I picked up the most about her. When she's passionate about something and talking about a book, you just have to have it. Like, she's amazing. But I felt really fortunate working with her. I also worked with Elaine on foreign rights. I worked with Deirdre just seeing her contracts, her deals, her day-to-day. And then starting out, I was also our submission coordinator. So I'd see every submission that came in and vet it before it went to any agent. This was a pre-query manager. We now use query manager, so all agents just get their own queries. But before that, I would read and respond to every query. And that just kind of laid my foundation. I now have my own list of clients, obviously. But that gave me a bird's eye view of everything I would need to know to be a successful agent. And it's just, Deirdre's the best. She's just the best to learn under.
For those of us that haven't had the experience, what is query manager versus a submission coordinator?
Oh, okay. So that's a great question. So when I was a submission coordinator, things would just go to like a regular email box. It was submissions@knightagency.net. And I was, just a normal human, would go through everything and respond or forward it to agents. Now there's this computer program, I guess, called Query Manager that a lot of agencies use. So you're uploading things as a form. So each agent has their own portal you can upload your query to, and that's checked directly by the agent. So no longer am I needed to respond, because we really pride ourselves on responding to every email, but now thanks to Query Manager, you can use a form, whereas before I would actually take the letter, write in the person's name, send it on, via email, but it was all done without using a computer program. So Query Manager is much more efficient.
Well, I saw you guys are bragging on the website, not bragging, but stating on the website that you will have about a 2-week turnaround time to get back to the querier.
Yeah.
I was just drooling over it. Oh, my God. Because I'm an old man. I did this back in the days of the self-addressed stamped envelope. So 2 weeks. What privileged writers are about in the world now, really getting turnaround that fast. So does the query manager do things like flag emails where somebody is, spammed every agent within the agency with the same query?
No, we still just read everything. There's no sort of shortcuts or anything like certain things are going to trash automatically. There's none of that. We just really pride ourselves as an agency. As an agent personally, I love when people get back to me. So we try to extend that same courtesy to authors. 2 weeks is kind of like, I would say, our goal. I'm sure I've had times where it's been 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but I definitely set that goal for myself.
The author is listening right now. Like, 2.5 weeks. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I do it in batches, and I've definitely have gotten feedback sometimes when something has fallen in that day, and I'm doing the full batch, and they'll be like, they had my query for 3 hours and they responded. I'm like, I read it. You were in that batch. So you kind of can't win, because I think there is the thought if you read too quickly, you're not maybe giving full consideration. And, that's just not the case. We just really believe that submissions are important, that cultivating new talent is important. And because of that, we don't want to leave authors just wondering. We want to give them a definitive response whenever it's possible.
So how many queries are you receiving on an average day?
For me, I probably get about 20 a day. I'm a newer agent. I know when I was doing the submission inbox, some of our more senior agents see a lot more.
Gotcha. So you've got that seasoned experience that you know how to tear through an inbox pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. So I think the submission coordinator kind of set me up for that, because I would go through everything, and you just learn to see really what works. And, we ask for sample pages, so there's always that opportunity. If the query sounds interesting, but maybe it's just a little discombobulated, I go straight to the sample pages and see what we're working with. So just that kind of like, let's see kind of mentality.
So, okay, I'm brand new submission hits the inbox. What are you looking at first? How are you evaluating it, and how quickly can you do it?
Yeah, usually pretty quickly. First of all, I'm looking just to make sure it's something I represent. Sometimes I just get queries that aren't even what I represent. So that's an easy, fast no. I don't do picture books. I don't I only do a certain genre of adult. I do really just women's fiction and rom-coms at this point. So that kind of helps me weed things pretty quickly in that regard. Then I'm looking just at the basics. If you're writing middle grade, what is the word count? Is it 200,000? That's going to make me be like, oh, I'm going to have to really love this story to take on a 200,000 word middle grade and get it in shape for submission. So those are things.
Would that at least with the sample get a look? Even at word count?
200,000 might be aggressive. I'm usually one who will be generous with large word counts because I kind of feel like we can always whittle it down. 200,000 obviously is a little bit crazy for that regard. But I'm looking at that, and then I just, it only takes me a second. A query should probably take up about 3/4 of a page. It doesn't need to be long to be well written. So that only takes me a few seconds to review and know, what's the hook? Is this something fresh? Is this something that makes me excited to read on for the sample pages? And it's just something I like, because as an agent, I sometimes see projects that I'm like, ooh, this is good, but this isn't for me. I'm not going to be the right agent for this. And so I think kind of that's the hardest one, is when something's good, but you're not sure you're the right person for it. But just kind of trusting your gut. That kind of helps me make the fastest decisions. It's just do I feel that spark or do I not?
Well, without boring folks too much, because I know we've always got a nice mix listening to the show. Some folks that have just wrote their first query or are about to write their first query ever to you, and folks that have been on I call it the query go round, which is a fairly common phrase, for years. And they've got this down. When you're looking at a query, how would you prefer that open? Do you want to hear about the author? Do you want to just straight to the pitch for the story? What would you like?
Pretty much straight to the pitch. Sometimes I see people lead with this is a YA thriller and this is the word count, and that's fine. That doesn't really bother me either way. That can sometimes come at the end too. But I think beginner authors sometimes make the mistake of front loading too much about themselves. This is a story I've been working on for 10 years. It's this, it's that. I worked as a fisherman, and it's just really what I need as a good story. That's the most important part. So as fast as you can get to what your story is, what is the hook, that's better. That's ideal, because, like I said, I go through so many. I don't really have the time to kind of sort through the information. So if you can write it in a concise way, and there's so much great information out there about doing strong queries, but so it's definitely doable. But that's the best way to do it, and helps me evaluate your project.
Do you want to hear how I learned about you? I heard you on the Middle Grade Ninja podcast. You sounded fantastic, so that's why I sent you my query. Or just get to the pitch. I don't care how you heard about me.
That's fine. And if there's a relevant information, like I do, I'll put out tweets with the MSWL hashtag every so often, like looking for this, looking for that. And if people see that and they feel it's relevant to their work and they want to reference it, that's great. I never hate when people do their homework. I think if it becomes a stretch for why you're, if my MSWL said something very specific and you reference it and then your book has nothing to do with that, I wouldn't stretch the connection. It's okay if there's not a connection. But if there is one, or if there is a specific reason, you love my author's work and your project's similar, feel free to mention it. But I don't think you have to fabricate something to get an agent's interest.
I understand you're looking for rom-coms. The protagonist in my political thriller loves rom-coms also.
Right. Well, you'd be surprised that people will make that stretch. And I think it comes from the idea that, agents aren't actually reading their queries, that they're just kind of like you said, flagging certain things. And I read every single query. So there's no reason to try to trick me into opening it. I'm going to open it.